What's going on, workforce? Brian and Chris reporting live from Charlotte here today. We're going to be diving into, obviously, discussions this week as it relates to the 10-year plan and the information we got from Yoshi P this weekend. But right now, when we're sitting here just looking out at everything that was presented, the things that we're most excited about, there's a real big thing that I think Chris is just really excited to see the impact on Final Fantasy XIV. And Chris, why don't you go ahead and share, what is that? What is the thing you're most excited about that Yoshi P presented this past weekend?
I think now that the free trial is coming back tomorrow, as of this filming, the hardest thing is that we asked new players to go through the entire level grind.
Yeah.
And there's a second part that I assume we'll talk about as a second topic, which is the trusts. But
Mhm.
for me, one of the hardest parts to kind of justify is as you come up on the end of ARR, you do Cape Westwind, which you have to wait for a group so that you can get something that like is a waste of everybody's trial roulette. Like it doesn't do anything. It's not a real encounter. And then you go into a 35-minute dungeon and a 50-minute dungeon that have non-skippable cutscenes because that's the best of the options available.
Yeah.
Like it's not great. And then yeah, it gives a huge experience to everybody that does it, but like it's the whole thing is a weird experience. And it really can't be trust capable because up until this expansion, we didn't think they could do 8-man trusts. And on top of that, like it's a lot of content to script. So you would have to break it up, and they are going to break Praetorium up into multiple encounters. So that at least like the very last portion of it can be a single player scenario. I think this is big. I think this is the new player experience. This is the single biggest leap forward we've seen for the new player experience since I started playing.
The other side of that, because I want to talk slightly about digital preservation, because that's one of the thoughts that I've actually been having with several online, is that like if you've ever wanted to experience that, like now's the time. Like, so if you're like, hey, I really want to experience that meme trial, because one of the things I've just as an aside that I thought was interesting is people are going in item level synced, to that fight, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's actually mechanics, there's actually a fight here that presents a challenge if you and so that was something that we were like, oh yeah, there was a time where this was content, and now it's become the meme trial. And ultimately, it's like, if you've ever wondered, this will be a time right now to experience that, because it is going away, and in a good way. Like, I'm completely positive on this change as the evolution of the game itself, but this is also the biggest shift on the ARR that I experienced. Like, all of this is not going to be the Realm Reborn that launched back in like 2013 in that regards. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's going
we're already not in the Realm Reborn that was in 2013.
Oh, correct. But I'm just saying, like, when you start like all that pieces stripping away, like if you want to experience what it could have been like, obviously being there in real time is the best option. But the second best option is like, if you want to say, hey, I was there for this before they made the change, this is the only time you're really going to have that opportunity, that we're well aware of. But the flip side of that is that a lot of people are saying, like this is going to be like such a value to the new player experience. I think this is going to open up Final Fantasy XIV to a whole new category of gamer, where when we look at like the typical people who are like, I really like the MMO, I really like playing with other people. There's a lot of people, and we've said this, it's like, it's so strange that you have the trust come in at Shadowbringers, because hey, yeah, you got to have these multiplayer moments, and then eventually you won't really need that many, like it tones it down, way down. And so this will actually, I'm wondering to see if there's been a lot of people who are on the fence, or just like, I would play that Final Fantasy game, but I really just want to play it as a solo game. Then it's like, hey, guess what? Like, that's going to open it up. And then the question that I'm waiting to see from any player is like, if that was who you were, if you're like, I'm not going to play a multiplayer Final Fantasy game, and all of a sudden this comes in, it gets you to try it, and then all of a sudden do you find yourself doing multiplayer content down the road. And my bet is that there's going to be a conversion, and that's going to be really positive for Final Fantasy XIV and the community as a whole, because it kind of removes those barriers and allows people to kind of step into it on their own terms, as opposed to being forced into it at level 15, like randomly. It's like, hey, I'm having a good time. And then it's like, oh wait, now I have anxiety because I haven't been playing this game for 10 years. And I think that's the real critical thing, is that you haven't been playing this game, and then you end up running into a veteran like me, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we've all done this like 1,000 times. Let's go. Not that that's how I handle myself online, but there are those who do.
No, the trust adjustment is a huge shift. Right now, the game is a MMO and a single player game, and you are on one side during the leveling experience. You are on one side of the coin or the other. When you come on a single player scenario, like you used to have to like way back. There was a time when you like couldn't be in a party, couldn't have your chocobo out.
Yeah.
So like they've slowly improved it a little bit, but like at the end of the day, there is this solo RPG that is happening. And if you like the MMO portion, the best you can do is skip it. Like you have to do it. You either skip it or you pay attention to it. But either way, it takes place on your copy of the game.
Yeah.
At least once. New Game Plus says it can happen again for no reward, which is still weird. Then at the same time, the other side of that coin is going along, and you're like, oh, well, that's fine, because that just says, like, why would you buy an RPG and then skip it? So this is a single player RPG. And then those people get to Sistasha, and it's like, okay, where are your friends?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Wait a minute. It's going to be so exciting, like you said.
It's really nice for that RPG, which for a community that's this passionate about the story, this invites in a lot of people who will enjoy the story.
Yeah. And that as a veteran of this game, like I'm always been just play it. Like my thought is like, you should just play this game, whether you decide to stick with it as an MMO, or you just want to be like, all right, I'll come check out the next expansion here in a couple years. Like there's no wrong way to play it if you're having fun. And this is, I think, just going to help kind of remove that last bit. Like, especially like if I think of when I start to get Maddie involved in the game itself, like having trust as a part of those dungeons. Like the only thing that I want to see when it comes to the trust system, I would love it to be scalable in terms of flexibility, where like if I could play with Maddie and then we could have 2 trusts, so I don't have to worry about impacting anybody's experience of the game, right?
Yes.
That's as the
mix
dad,
and match.
Yeah,
Yes.
as the dad in me, I'm like, yeah, I mean, at some point, like I will have enough people to raid in Final Fantasy XIV, and I won't need anybody else. I've built my own raid team, one generation at a time. But the core of it is like, that's something that I, as a parent, I would really enjoy seeing, because that gives us the opportunity to experience the game together without having, like, it's not necessarily about worrying about outside influence. It's also like, we don't want to impact anybody else's experience. I don't want anybody coming in and be like, oh no, like I'm playing with this.
Oh, it's like I'm playing with a child.
Yeah. You are. Right. And so that's something that I actually am excited about to see for the health of the game, because that could open up the game to so many more types of players. And then beyond that, I think for me, the thing I'm most excited about is the fact that they are extending the patch cycle, and they're baking in more break time for the developers. Like the software engineer in me goes, it's like, you guys have been sprinting pretty dadgum hard for very long. It's going to be, I think we're going to see a big benefit in terms of giving everybody a little bit more breathing room per cycle, and also giving people time off to rest and to be excited. And maybe, I mean, because like, what do you do when you have time off? Sometimes I play other games, right? So that could help also in the way that people are like, all right, yeah, this is nice, so I'm going to go check out X, Y, and Z. And then I think Final Fantasy XIV is going to benefit from essentially that rest in and of itself. And it's also been communicated to the players, because players are going to want content, but it's now being saying, hey, we're shooting for 4 months, and I think that's actually going to be a really healthy thing for the longevity of the game itself.
Yeah, I'm really just excited about the number of people we're inviting in. I have friends that they don't play games more than an hour at a time. They just don't. Like at this point in their life, and yet, like, one of those friends just texted me last night, and he's like, dude, have you played this game on Game Pass? And he's having a blast. But it has to be something that he can knock out in a single free evening while his, like, wife's out of town or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or it has to be something that he can knock out in brief intervals. And Final Fantasy just doesn't fit that. There is no number of, like, you will eventually come across a 50-minute Praetorium or a dungeon that is a DPS, because he tends to like DPS in games. As a DPS, he has to wait, 30 minutes to begin the encounter, because the time slot he plays slides out of prime time mid-patch cycle, and he's just trying to slowly chug through this. And so like I'm excited to be able to more comfortably invite a wider range of people to Final Fantasy that I think would like the end product, but I just haven't known how to get them there.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so much to unpack. I see like when we look at everything was revealed with job adjustments, deep dungeon. When we look at the scalable dungeons, those are going to be some videos we're going to be bringing to you guys as focused topics of what we want to see here this week. So if you guys like the content, subscribe, like, share, all that fun stuff, and be sure to check this back for more. Is there anything regarding this specific topic though, Chris, that you want to kind of say as kind of our final thoughts?
No, just that yes, the nostalgia piece of it.
Yeah.
I want to run dungeons as they were. We are getting the 2.0 dungeons are going into the trust system, and some of them will get adjustments. Not just Praetorium and Cape Westwind, where there's massive adjustments, but things like Toto Rock, where heavy is gone. So for anybody that feels like they want to kind of have one more archival experience before it goes away, you have until 6.1 to clear all of the 2.0 4-man content. And then you will have 4 months to get through all of the 2.x and the beginning of the Heavensward dungeons. So knowing that in February, when we know that we have the rest of February, all of March, there's no way this patch slides into March.
Man, yeah. That'd be a fun clip if we're wrong. If you're wrong, we're wrong on that. Oh, there's no way. Hey, it's the last day of March. Sweet. But yeah,
and
I don't think it happens, Sam.
I don't think it is. But you've got several weeks to go run at least MSQ Roulette, at least Cape Westwind, but probably go take a run through some old ARR dungeons, especially anybody who has jobs that are sub-level 50. What a great opportunity to go spend some time in that content, knowing that it's going to be different for anybody that's on a New Game Plus experience that's trying to, now that Endwalker's ended the story and they've been playing through, if you want it to be a true repeat as close as possible to what you had the first time, you need to be through 2.0 by 6.1, and you can be in 2.x. And so like the nice thing is about this pacing out is they're telling you like you have 4 months to beat each section before the wave of change comes up behind you.
And like on that note, just like you said at the start of this, the free trial goes back on sale, or like on sale. It goes back and active tomorrow, so that ultimately, at the time of this recording, ultimately, if you haven't, and you're like, well, you actually have no excuse. You could play for free. You could check it out, and then you could still go into and get the Heavensward stuff done. And as long as you're kind of ahead of that 4-month curve, you can experience it for what it is today. And then essentially, then also it's going to change. So I know we'll find people. I always find people.
It's like a year.
Right. I always find people.
The free trial is passed by the change.
Right. Meaning, like, you do have enough time at the time of this recording, so do this before patch 6.1 is out. That way you're not going to be sitting here like stressed. One of the things I run into online is like, oh man, I wish I could have done X. And that's usually what I usually hear about. Like, oh, I wish I could have played 1.0 just to see what it was like back then. Oh, I wish I could have done this. And it's like, yeah, like this is an opportunity for you guys to experience.
It's getting better.
It's getting better. Like overall, it's a win-win-win. I think for the community, for the developers, for the game. But at the end of the day, like it's going to be one of those things that you look back and be like, oh man, I wish I had the context of what it was like prior to that change, just so you have it in the back of your mind. And that's kind of what we're encouraging you guys to do. That's the video. Like I got nothing else to add to it. Chris, you want to send us off?
No, I mean, those of you that I guess enjoy our content over on Facebook, I uploaded a brief video of this wall going green for anybody that finds it fascinating how green screens roll on.
All right. And for me, I got some Facebook posts rolling out as well from the individual quests, a couple of fun discussions about what's the best kind of Italian food, and more over on Facebook Gaming as well. So you can check us out over there. Chris will be live over on Twitch if you want to come weigh in and see what it looks like with the green screen and he's rocking and playing some Final Fantasy. You playing Final Fantasy XIV today? Or we
I don't know yet.
Okay. We don't know what he's playing today, but we'll find out obviously soon enough. For Work to Game, my name's Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Take care.